Sermon for Sunday, the 19th of April 2020. I'm starting to see articles around which are starting to imagine what might happen to life, universe, everything when we return to business as usual. There are conflicting reports about what the effect will be on faith communities. Will this be the death blow for Sunday church attendances? People having found that they get on perfectly well without heading to a church building on a Sunday morning, voting with their feet and having a lie-in, spending time with family, or just never getting back into the habit of going to church. Or an alternative, more positive notion, that our churches will be fuller than they have been for a long time, full of folk giving thanks and enjoying something that they have been missing, perhaps for a long time. I've been delighted that several members of our churches have sent emails asking for me to add new people to our email list. Always room for more, of course. It would appear that during lockdown, we're in some cases reaching more people than we would in normal circumstances. Our services are distributed to around 150 or more people, comfortably more than I'd expect on any given Sunday. Our last two Sunday sermons have been watched nearly 100 times each. That is certainly more watches than our sermons would usually get, even if preached at our two best attended churches. Another encouraging thing is that I've had the first request to set up a virtual time of prayer amongst members of one of our congregations. There may be more that I've not yet heard of. As we've been phoning around folk, I've been encouraged by how we are caring for each other. The number of people who have been phoning one another, trying to keep the bonds of love within our church family, is truly beautiful. Keep it up. And if you're late to joining the phone chain party, never feel that it's too late to start. Some of us are getting used to Zoom, FaceTime, Skype, and are staying in touch with folk that way too. So what has all this got to do with the readings that we have set for today? Looking back to our reading from Peter's first letter, we hear of both the challenges and trials that the early church faced, but also giving emphasis to the blessings and the joys of being followers of Christ. Although the author of this letter is unlikely to be Peter the Apostle, the Greek is too literary for a Galilean fisherman, and there are telltale signs that the letter is formulated after the destruction of the temple in 70 AD. There's a real sense that the writer understands that, like Peter, some have already lost their lives for the sake of the gospel, and it's key to understanding the message of this letter. We are not the first church to find it difficult, not the first church has been unable to meet together in our usual fashion, to suffer trials and tribulations, nor will we be the last. We are usually fortunate to be able to meet without impediment. Some may find us foolish, some may mock us gently or less gently, but trials are not part of our lives of faith in general. Our trial, if that is not too strong a word, is that we can't meet together and enjoy each other's company in the large building in the heart of our community. So how do we think about our faith in such time? As Peter states, although you have not seen him, you love him. And even though you do not see him now, you believe in him and rejoice with an indescribable and glorious joy. I wonder if the idea that our faith being more precious than gold resonates with us as we worship together apart. What will be the long-term impact on our faith as a result? Looking to the gospel, we hear again the familiar story of doubting Thomas. Or perhaps we need to rewrite him as self-isolating Thomas for our time. Although he is not able to be physically present the first time that Jesus appears to his followers, there is still another opportunity for him to do so when the time comes to end his isolation. Perhaps he can be forgiven for his hesitance to accept the truth of the resurrection. Perhaps some of us will feel hesitant to walk through the doors of our church buildings once more, to the end of social distancing. Is our faith feeling weaker because we are not experiencing the presence of Christ in the sacrament of the altar, or the presence of the Holy Spirit in the gathering of the faithful? Thomas's faith is strengthened by the evidence of touching the scars. It is the way he refines the gold of his faith. What are the ways in which we will refine the gold of our faith in these times? Are we waiting for someone to lead us to this refining, someone to point the way, or do we have the resources already? Do we just need the courage to step out in faith, to ask someone to pray with us, to ask someone to share with us, to study the scriptures together and hear God speaking to us, over the phone, Zoom, Skype, or whatever or whatever method we use, it's a good time for the church family to grow together in faith. I pray that we might continue to rejoice in our faith to the glory of God. Amen.